My wife secretly sold our family home for $350, $0 behind my back, then demanded I sign a prenup she forged to keep her inheritance of $200, $0. Now she's blocking me from seeing our kids and threatening legal action to steal everything. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing about how my wife turned out to be a total nightmare behind my back. Honestly, I thought we had a solid life, 2 kids, a decent house, and a future we planned together. But all of that came crashing down in a way I never expected. The weird thing is, the signs were there, but I ignored them. I kept telling myself she was just stressed, busy with work, or maybe just tired from the kids. Little did I know, she was secretly selling our family home, forging documents, and planning to take everything from me. It all started about 6 months ago. Had been acting strange, secretive. Calls, late nights, and a weird attitude whenever I brought up money or the future. She'd brush me off, say I was overthinking it, or accuse me of paranoia. But I noticed her phone was always locked, and she'd hide it whenever I walked into the room. Then one day I found a text message from some guy named Jake. It wasn't just friendly, it was flirtatious, suggestive, and it made my stomach turn. I confronted her about it, and she everything, calling me insecure and jealous. I wanted to believe she was just talking to a friend, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was really wrong. Then I started digging, going through her phone when she wasn't around, trying to find out what she was hiding. That's when I stumbled on something even worse. An email from a real estate agent talking about a property sale. At first I thought maybe she was planning a surprise for me or the kids, but then I saw the address. It was our house, our family home. The one we poured our savings into, the one I thought was our future. I couldn't believe it. I looked at the email again and saw the sale was for $350, $0. That's more than enough to pay off our mortgage and leave a little extra for whatever she wanted. I was stunned. But what hit me even harder was the fact that she hadn't told me a damn thing. I remembered the last time I tried to talk to her about finances. She brushed me off, said I was paranoid, and told me I was overreacting. But now I knew she'd been secretly planning this behind my back. The next day I confronted her. I waited until the kids were at school and I sat her down in the living room. I told her I knew about the sale, about the email, and about her lying to me. Her face twisted into this bitchy sneer and she started spinning her stories. She said she was just exploring options, that she was worried about our financial future, and that I was just paranoid again. When I asked her why she didn't tell me, she shrugged and said she didn't trust me anymore. That I was too controlling, too insecure. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All the years we spent building a life and she was just throwing it away behind my back. But what made it worse was how she looked at me. So cold, so dismissive, like I was just some obstacle she needed to get rid of. That's when I realized this wasn't just about money or a stupid affair. It was about her complete disregard for what we had. In the days that followed, I was a mess. I'd wake up thinking about the house, about the kids, about what she'd done with our life savings. I felt betrayed, furious, and helpless all at once. How could she do this? How could she sell our home, our family's stability, without telling me? The betrayal cut deep and I started questioning everything. Was she with that Jake guy? Was she planning to leave me for good? And most of all, how do I get my life back from someone who'd so easily destroy what we built? I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her keep lying and stealing from us. I started planning my next move, trying to figure out how to stop her, how to protect my kids, and how to make her face the consequences of her actions. But I also felt a strange mix of sadness and anger, sad that I'd trusted her so blindly, and angry that she'd betrayed me so thoroughly. That's where I am right now. Sitting here typing this out, trying to figure out what's next. I thought I knew my wife, but turns out I was blind. And now I've got a lot of questions and even more pain to process. If you're reading this, just know, trust is fragile, and once it's broken, it's damn hard to fix. After I found out about the house sale, everything in my life just spiraled out of control. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and I kept replaying that conversation within my head. She was so dismissive, so cold, like I was just some obstacle she needed to get rid of. I started digging deeper, trying to piece together how much she'd actually taken from us and what her real plans were. I decided to check the bank accounts, hoping to find some trace of the money she'd gotten from selling the house. That's when I saw it, several large deposits that I didn't recognize. Turns out, had opened a new account under a different name, probably to hide the money. I couldn't believe it. She'd been lying to my face for months, maybe longer. I felt this intense rage building inside me. How could she do this? How could she sell our home, our family's sanctuary, and keep me in the dark? I also found a lot of strange charges, luxury dinners, jewelry, even a few hotel stays. Clearly, she'd been spending the money on herself, probably with Jake, or whoever she was sneaking around with. It made me feel sick. I thought about the nights she'd come home late, her phone always buzzing, her secretive attitude. It all made sense now. She was cheating, stealing, and planning her escape. I had to act fast. I couldn't let her get away with this, not without a fight. I started calling a lawyer, trying to understand what my rights were. But before I could do anything serious, I needed proof. I set up hidden cameras around the house, especially in her phone and her usual hiding spots. I wanted to catch her in the act, or at least have concrete evidence. Meanwhile was getting more aggressive. She started threatening me, saying I had no right to interfere, that I was paranoid and controlling. She accused me of trying to ruin her, of being jealous of her happiness. That bitch was good at lying, but I knew her too well. I could see it in her eyes. She was panicking, trying to cover her tracks, trying to keep everything she stole from me. One night I caught her sneaking out of the house with her purse. I followed her, trying to stay hidden, and I saw her meet up with Jake at a nearby motel. They were kissing, holding hands, and I snapped some photos. That was the proof I needed. I felt a mixture of shock, betrayal, and pure fury. How could she do this to me? To our kids? The next day, I went straight to the lawyer with the evidence. We started drafting legal documents to freeze her accounts, stop her from selling or transferring anything else, and protect my rights as the legal father of our children. I also discovered that had forged my signature on some documents. She'd even created a fake prenup, claiming she was entitled to my inheritance of $200, $0. That was the final straw. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone to steal from me and destroy what we had built. I confronted her again, this time with the lawyer present. I told her I knew everything about the sale, the money, her affair, and the forged documents. She spun her usual lies, crying, screaming, trying to manipulate me. She said I was overreacting, that I didn't understand her, that she was doing all of this for our family's future. But I wasn't buying any of it. I saw through her bullshit. The shock of it all hit me hard. I'd been so blind, so trusting. I thought I was married to someone who loved me and our kids. Instead, I was married to someone who'd been plotting her escape, stealing from us, and cheating. I felt this deep ache in my chest, anger, betrayal, sadness. I wanted to lash out, to punish her, but I knew I had to stay calm, stay focused. What really hurt was knowing that our children were caught in the middle of all this. She'd been blocking me from seeing them, telling lies about me, trying to turn them against me. I couldn't believe how cold she'd become. I missed my kids so much, and it tore me apart knowing she was keeping them from me because she was more worried about her own lies and plans. I decided I'd fight for custody, for the house, and for what was rightfully mine. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything, especially not our family. I started gathering more evidence, talking to friends and neighbors, trying to find out if she'd said anything to anyone else about her plans. I wanted to be prepared for whatever legal battles were coming. Right now, I feel like I'm in some kind of war I didn't sign up for. I thought I knew my wife, but I was just too blind to see her true nature. I keep asking myself how I missed the signs, how I let her manipulate and lie so easily. But I also know I can't turn back now. I have to fight, not just for the house or the money, but for my kids and my dignity. And honestly, I don't know how I get through the next step without losing myself in the process. After gathering all the evidence, photos from that night, bank statements, forged documents, and the emails, I felt like I was finally starting to get some clarity. But it also made everything worse. The realization that my wife had been planning this for months, maybe even years, hit me like a ton of bricks. She had sold our house behind my back, kept the money hidden, and was actively blocking me from seeing the kids. The anger boiled inside me, but beneath that was this sinking feeling that I'd been so naive, so trusting, and now I was paying for it. I remember sitting in my car outside her apartment one evening, staring at the photos I'd taken, trying to process everything. I felt numb, but also furious. How could she do this to me, to the kids? How could she lie so effortlessly, forge my signature, and steal from us like it was nothing? It was like she'd been planning her escape from the beginning, and I was just too blind to see it. I decided I needed to confront her again, this time with the lawyer present. I couldn't let her spin her lies anymore. I called her to meet at a coffee shop, and she showed up looking bitchy and defensive. She tried to deny everything, throwing out excuses about how she wanted to secure our future and thought I was too controlling. She said she was just exploring options, that she never meant to hurt me, and that I was just being paranoid. I was so sick of her lies, I just cut her off. I told her I had proof of everything, photos, bank statements, fake signatures, and I was going to take her to court. She scoffed and said I was overreacting, that I was just jealous and insecure. She tried to turn it around and blame me for not trusting her, which made me laugh bitterly. Trust, after all this. She'd been lying to my face for months. I told her she had no idea how much damage she'd done and that I'd make sure she paid for it. The thing is, I also started thinking about the kids, had been blocking me from seeing them, claiming I was unstable or unfit, which was completely false. She'd even told the kids I was leaving them, that I didn't want to be their father anymore. That's when I knew I had to do something more serious. I couldn't let her keep lying and manipulating. I contacted a lawyer about custody and explained everything. In the meantime, I started secretly recording her calls and conversations when I could. I wanted to have everything documented. I also hired a private investigator to see if I could find out more about her activities. Turns out she'd been meeting up with Jake almost daily, staying out late, and even spending the money she'd stolen from us on fancy dinners and clothes. It was all so clear now. She'd been living a double life, and I was just the fool who believed in her. One shocking thing I uncovered was that she'd forged my signature on a prenup, some fake document she'd created to claim she was entitled to my inheritance of $200, $0. That was the last straw. She'd been lying, stealing, and cheating at every turn. I couldn't let her get away with it. I started drafting legal documents to challenge everything: her sale of the house, her forged prenup, her access to the kids. I knew this was going to be a long battle, but I was determined to fight for what was rightfully mine. Meanwhile, she kept trying to gaslight me, saying I was overreacting, that I was crazy, and that I was trying to ruin her. But I could see through her act now. She was panicked, desperate, and dangerous. I knew I had to stay strong and keep gathering evidence. I also started talking to friends and family who knew us, trying to get support and advice. One night I found out she'd been trying to sell the house again, without my knowledge. That's when I realized she was planning to disappear entirely. I called my lawyer immediately and put a stop to any further transactions. I also told her I was going to take legal action to prevent her from doing anything else. The situation was escalating, and I knew I had to be prepared for a war. Honestly, I'd never felt so betrayed in my life. I'd been married to her for over 10 years, and I thought I knew her. Turns out, I was just living with a master manipulator. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I didn't see her real motives. But now, all I could do was focus on protecting myself and the kids. I had to get them away from her influence and make sure she couldn't steal anything else. The hardest part was knowing she was blocking me from seeing the kids. I'd call, text, even show up at her place, but she'd refuse. She'd lie, say I was dangerous or unstable. It was heartbreaking. I just wanted to be there for my kids, to tell them the truth, but she was doing everything she could to keep me away. I felt helpless, angry, and deeply hurt. I realized I was in a fight for my life, my reputation, my money, and most of all, my relationship with my children. The betrayal was worse than I ever imagined. I used to think I knew her, but now I see her for what she really is: a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted, no matter who gets hurt. I don't know how this is going to end, but I do know I won't let her steal my life without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of legal meetings, secret recordings, and trying to stay afloat emotionally. Every time I felt this intense mixture of rage and heartbreak. She had turned into a total stranger, someone capable of selling our home, forging my signature and lying to my face about everything. I kept asking myself how I missed all the red flags, how I'd been so blind to her true nature. But now, it was all out in the open, and I had to deal with the fallout. I remember sitting in my lawyer's office one afternoon, going over the mountain of evidence I'd collected. We were preparing to file for full custody of the kids, freeze her accounts, and contest her claim to the inheritance and the house. It felt like I was gearing up for a battle I couldn't win. Had always been good at manipulation, and I knew she'd fight dirty. But I was determined to protect my kids and my rights. I couldn't let her take everything I'd worked for, especially not after all the pain she'd caused. That night I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the photos of our family. Happy times, birthdays, vacations. It hurt so much to see those memories now, knowing she'd been sneaking around, lying and planning her escape. I kept thinking about the kids, how she kept blocking me from seeing them, how she was poisoning their minds against me. It was like she was trying to erase me from their lives, and I couldn't let that happen. Meanwhile, I'd been talking to a few close friends who knew us well. Some of them were shocked, others angry on my behalf. One friend, Mike, told me I needed to be careful with. He said she'd been lying from the start and that I should prepare for her to fight back hard. I appreciated the heads up, but honestly I was already in too deep to back down. I knew she was capable of anything, and I had to stay one step ahead. I also started gathering witnesses, people who had seen her secret meetings with Jake or heard her talk about selling the house. I wanted to have as much evidence as possible to back up my claims in court. I couldn't trust her to tell the truth, so I had to be the one to bring the facts. I even hired a private investigator to confirm some of my suspicions about her activities. Turns out she'd been meeting Jake almost daily, staying out late, and spending heavily on luxury items. That confirmed everything I'd suspected. One thing that really tore me up was realizing she'd forged my signature on that fake prenup, claiming she was entitled to my inheritance. That was the last straw. I'd worked so hard for that money, and she'd been planning to steal it all along. I couldn't believe how cold and calculating she'd become. It's like she'd completely lost any sense of morality. The thought that she'd manipulate and lie to get what she wanted made me sick. I decided I had to do something drastic. I filed for a court order to freeze her assets and prevent her from selling or transferring any more property. I also demanded access to the kids, knowing she was trying to keep me away. But the hardest part was knowing she was still blocking me from seeing them, lying and twisting the truth. I kept calling, texting, showing up at her place, but she just refused to let me see them. It was torture. I felt like I was losing my mind. One day, I found out she'd been planning to leave the state with the kids. She'd packed bags and was ready to run. I caught wind of it through a friend who overheard her talking about a fresh start somewhere far away. That's when I realized I had to act fast. I called my lawyer again and got an emergency order to prevent her from leaving the state with the children. I also started gathering evidence of her plans, screenshots of her texts, her packing, and her conversations with Jake. It was clear was desperate, and her desperation made her dangerous. She was willing to do anything to keep the money, the house, and her new life. I felt a mixture of fear and anger. I trusted her for so long, and now I saw her for what she truly was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted. I kept asking myself how I'd missed all the signs, how I'd been so blind to her lies. But I also knew I couldn't let her get away with it. I had to protect the kids, my reputation, and what was left of my dignity. I started preparing for a long legal fight, knowing she'd be fighting just as hard. I hired a custody evaluator, made arrangements for surveillance, and started documenting everything. I knew she'd try to twist the story in court, but I had enough evidence to show she was unfit and that her actions were driven by greed and betrayal. Honestly, I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. I always believed in the sanctity of marriage, in trust and honesty. But now I see how fragile all that was. Betrayal has changed everything, my view of her, my life, and even myself. I used to think I was a good husband, a responsible father, but now I question everything. How could she have lied so blatantly? How could she sell our home, forge my signature, and block me from my children? It's a nightmare I can't wake up from. Yet I have no choice but to keep fighting, to do whatever it takes to protect what's left of my family and myself. The legal process has been a nightmare, but I refuse to give up. Every day feels like a new battle. Lawyers are doing everything they can to drag things out, claiming I'm unstable, that I'm trying to interfere with her rights, but I have all the proof I need. The forged documents, the secret sale of our house, the secret meetings with Jake, and her attempts to leave the state with the kids. I've turned everything over to my lawyer, and now we're in the thick of court battles. Meanwhile, behavior has only gotten more aggressive. She's trying to paint me as the villain, saying I'm stalking her, trying to control her, that I'm an unfit father. She's even gone as far as to file restraining orders claiming I'm dangerous. It's all lies, but it's making the process even more complicated. I know she's desperate, and her desperation is dangerous. She's willing to lie, manipulate, and even threaten to get what she wants. The worst part is not being able to see my kids. Every day I wake up wondering if today will be the day she finally lets me see them again, or if she'll keep blocking me. I've sent countless messages, tried to reach out through friends, but she just blocks everything. I hear from the kids' teachers that they ask about me, that they miss me. It tears me apart knowing she's poisoning their minds, telling them I do want to see them or that I'm the reason she's leaving. It's pure manipulation, but I feel powerless to stop it. One day I got a call from the court. They scheduled a custody hearing, and I knew it was my chance to finally fight for the kids. I prepared everything: evidence, witnesses, character references. I was ready to show that was unfit, that her actions were motivated by greed and betrayal. I also filed a motion to have her held accountable for forging my signature and selling the house illegally. This was more than just a custody battle, it was about justice. That same day, his demeanor changed. She started making wild accusations, claiming I was trying to ruin her, that I was stalking her and the kids. She even tried to turn the judge against me by saying I was emotionally unstable and that I was a danger to the children. I couldn't believe her audacity. I sat in that courtroom, feeling a mixture of rage and frustration, knowing that I was fighting not just for my kids, but for the truth. The hearing was intense. My lawyer presented all the evidence: photos, bank records, forged documents, witness testimonies. His lawyer tried to discredit everything, but the judge saw through it. They ordered a custody evaluation and temporarily awarded me supervised visitation rights. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. I felt a glimmer of hope, knowing I was finally making progress, but wasn't done. She kept pushing, trying to delay the process, filing more motions, claiming I was trying to manipulate her, accusing me of harassment. It was exhausting. Every day felt like I was fighting a war I couldn't see the end of. I started questioning whether I'd ever get my life back or if I was doomed to be a victim of her lies forever. Throughout all this, I kept thinking about the house she sold. I still can't believe she did that behind my back. That house was more than just a property. It was our family's foundation. Now it's gone, and I don't know if I'll ever get it back. I also worry about the inheritance she's trying to claim. I know she forged that prenup, and I plan to challenge it in court. I want everything legally mine: my money, my rights, my children. Honestly, I feel drained. I've lost sleep, lost trust, and lost a part of myself. I used to think I was a decent husband, a good father, and someone who could rely on his wife. Now I see how much I was blind. Betrayal has shattered everything I believed in. But I also realize I can't let her win. I have to keep fighting for my kids, for my money, and for my dignity. The biggest lesson I've learned from all this is that trust can be fragile, and sometimes the people closest to you can hurt you the most. I've learned that you have to be vigilant, protect yourself, and never assume someone's intentions are good just because they're your wife or partner. This experience has been a brutal wake-up call, but I'm determined to come out of it stronger. I want my kids to see that even when everything falls apart, you stand up, fight back, and do what's right. Now, after months of legal battles, lies, and chaos, I find myself at a crossroads. The court finally granted me full custody of the kids, and attempts to manipulate the system seem to be slowing down. She's still trying to fight, but her resources are drying up, and her lies are crumbling under the weight of evidence I've gathered. I've managed to get the forged prenup declared invalid, and the court has ordered her to return the money from the house sale. It's not the life I envisioned, but it's a start. My children are with me, and I've taken back some control. Looking back, I realize how much I've been through, how much I've learned about trust, betrayal, and resilience. I used to believe that marriage was about honesty and loyalty, but I now see how easily those can be shattered. Betrayal opened my eyes to the fact that sometimes the people you love the most can turn out to be the ones capable of the worst deception. It's a lesson in vigilance, about protecting yourself and your loved ones, even when it means facing harsh truths. The emotional toll has been enormous. I won't pretend I've come out unscathed. I still feel the sting of betrayal, the loss of the house, and the pain of seeing my children caught in the middle. But I also feel a sense of relief, knowing I fought for what was right, that I stood up to her lies, and that I didn't let her steal everything. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to listen to that small voice warning me when something's off, and to never ignore red flags again. I also want to say this: if you ever find yourself in a similar situation, don't hesitate to seek legal help and document everything. Keep your evidence organized. It's your strongest weapon. Don't be afraid to fight for your rights or your children, no matter how overwhelming it seems. And most importantly, don't lose sight of your own sanity and integrity. The road to justice is messy, but it's worth it. As for I don't know what's next for her, I hope she reflects on her actions and learns from this chaos she created. But I've realized that I can't fix her. The only thing I can do is focus on my healing, rebuilding my life, and making sure my kids feel loved and safe. They're my biggest motivation now. Watching them smile, hearing their laughter again, that's what keeps me going. This experience has changed me forever. I used to believe in the fairy tale version of marriage and trust. Now I see that life is more complicated, full of betrayal, greed, and hurt, but it's also about resilience, about standing up when everything seems to be falling apart. I've learned that even in the darkest moments, there's a flicker of hope. You just have to hold on to it and keep fighting. So I guess this is where I'll leave it. I'm still healing, still rebuilding, but I'm stronger now. I know who I am, what I stand for, and what I won't tolerate. Betrayal showed me the worst in people, but it also taught me the importance of standing firm, fighting for what's right, and never giving up. My kids are safe with me, and that's all that matters. Life will go on, and I'll keep moving forward, wiser, tougher, and more cautious than I ever thought I'd be.